We go live to Brazil. The nation holds Luiz Inácio Lula de Silva's and Geraldo Alckmin inauguration ceremony as 49th President of Brazil and 26th Vice President of Brazil, respectively. We are seeing images in a moment of the activity. We're watching the live images from Brazil as President-elect Lula da Silva arrives at Congress for his swearing-in ceremony. Today marks an historic, important day for Brazil, and not only for Brazil but also for the region. Upon arriving at Congress, they are received. Lula da Silva and Vice President-elect Geraldo Alckmin are received by the presidents of the Senate, Rodrigo Pacheco, and of the Chamber of Deputies, Arthur Lira. We can say that this is the third time that Lula da Silva will be sworn in as President of Brazil. Lula da Silva assumed the presidency for the first time on January 1st, 2003, and was re-elected for one more term, serving until December 31st, 2010. We're watching live images as the soon-to-be First Lady enters the Congress. She will soon be followed by Lula da Silva and Geraldo Alckmin, the Vice President-elect. Many foreign heads of governments of states have arrived here today at Brazil's capital to be part of this paramount swearing-in ceremony that will surely mark a new beginning for Brazil and its people. Throughout yesterday and this morning, we have seen images of thousands of people gathering in the capital to celebrate the return of Lula da Silva to the presidency. Have been astonishing images of how people have flocked to the capital to show their support and that they are there for Lula da Silva and they are going to work together as one people for the benefit of all and to bring Brazil out of the economic situation that it's experiencing after the government of Jair Bolsonaro, who fled the country. We could say that he left the country. He will not be part of these as tradition mandates of the ceremony. He will not hand over power to Lula da Silva. He left for Miami. I will not be able to return, of course, until later in the month. And if he does, he will have to return on a private flight or a commercial flight. He went to Miami on the Air Force plane because back until yesterday he was officially the president of Brazil. But today history changes. Lula has had a rough moment to arrive to this place in history. That hopefully he can bring change and help Brazilians to lift them out of poverty, of the extreme poverty that they're experiencing. According to figures, many of Brazilians face food insecurity. And Lula was in prison for 19 months, accused of receiving bribes from companies that obtained contracts with Petrobras and other corruption cases. However, the Brazilian Supreme Federal Court annulled the convictions in 2021 due to judicial defects and structural flaws in the process, led by the then Judge Sergio Moro, who later became Bolsonaro's minister. Dilma Rousseff was also removed from the presidency in August 2016, 2 years before the end of her second term, accused without legal evidence of fiscal peddling, finalizing the impeachment under a classic case of lawfare, approved by 367 votes against and 137 in the House and 61 votes against and 20 in the Senate. Around this case last September 22, 2022, a resolution of the Fifth Chamber of Coordination and Review of the Federal Public Ministry was made public, which unanimously approved the filing of the civil investigation, confirming 6 years later that Dilma Rousseff is innocent, that a mistake was made, that the accusations were false, and that legally her impeachment was a coup d'etat. We're watching the live images as President Lula de Silva, soon to be president of the country, enters the Congress, the National Congress, where the ceremony, the swearing ceremony, will take place in a couple of minutes. The soon-to-be president of Brazil, Lula da Silva, has a lot of work to do in the country, especially in the economy. We are now seeing images how Lula da Silva is being welcomed with applause to the Congress. Speaking on the economy, to follow up with some more data, the Brazilian economy went into recession in 2021. The unemployment rate fell to 9.3%. Informal work has skyrocketed for 13.1 million Brazilians, representing 39.8% of the working population. All this according to data from the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics. On the subject of hunger, the latest study released by the Brazilian Research Network on Food and Nutritional Sovereignty and Security states that 125.2 million Brazilians, meaning 58.7% of the population, live in food insecurity. The northeast of the country concentrates 12.12 million, the largest number of people suffering from hunger, while 15% of the total number of Brazilians go hungry, about 33 million people. These are dramatic figures of the situation of misery and hunger in this country, which paradoxically is a great producer and exporter of food, meaning beef, sugar, coffee, soybeans, and orange juice. Specialists working on the issue of poverty have shown great concern with the dismantling of the Zero Hunger and Bolsa Familia programs implemented during the first two terms governments of Lula da Silva and Dilma Rousseff, since Bolsonaro ultra-right government replaced them with one called Auxílio Brasil, which neither had the scope, nor the reach, nor the impact that the Bolsa Familia program had. But this is also part of Lula da Silva's government program, to bring back this program to make sure that the most vulnerable parts of Brazil's populations are helped, and to bring down those high numbers in a country as important as Brazil is, not only for the international community. Just watching the images as Lula is welcomed with joy by people present here at the Congress ahead of his swearing-in ceremony. Let's go over very quickly on the schedule what we have ahead. So we have seen President-elect and Vice President-elect arrive at the National Congress, and they were welcomed by the Presidents of the Senate, Rodrigo Pacheco, and the Chamber of Deputies, Alvaro Lira. The solemn session of the ceremony should begin at 3 p.m. We are talking local time in Brazil. 3 p.m. Brazil, 2 p.m. Caracas, and 1 p.m. Havana. And it will begin with the singing of the national anthem, the constitutional commitment then, and the reading and signing of the mandate of the President and Vice President-elect of the Republic. Then we can expect the first address of President Lula da Silva to the nation. After the ceremony, the solemn ceremony is finished at Congress, Lula will exit, and he will go to the grounds outside the palace, where a ceremony of military honors will take place. And finally, President Lula da Silva will go to the Planalto Palace, the headquarters of government in Brazil, where he will meet with international authorities and heads of states present in today's ceremony. Several heads of states of the regions and Europe also are present here today to witness the swearing-in ceremony of Lula de Silva. Xiomara Castro from Honduras is present. Luis Arce from Bolivia is also here. Gustavo Petro of Colombia is also, as well as President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa from Portugal, among other heads of states of governments that have traveled to the Brazilian capital to be present during the swearing-in ceremony of Lula da Silva. Brazil is a presidential federative republic. The political administrative organization comprises 26 states and the federal district. The National Congress is two chambers. The Chamber of Deputies is formed by 513 members directly elected for 4 years, and the Federal Senate is formed by 81 directly elected members who are appointed for 8 years, but where 1/3 and 2/3 are alternately renewed every 4 years. To elect the president, this is the way Lula da Silva arrives here today. The presidential formula must have reached 50% plus 1 of the votes. Otherwise, a second round is established between the two most voted formulas, to be held on the 30th of the same month. The Superior Electoral Court is the body aimed at ensuring the effective means that guarantees to the Brazilian society a full manifestation of its will through the exercise of the right to vote and be voted for. It is worth remembering that Bolsonaro assumed the presidency of Brazil on January 1st, 2019, in the second round, and obtaining 55.1% of the votes. This round took place in the midst of the illegal detention of Lula da Silva. Although he was acquitted, the Brazilian right wing achieved the objective of preventing his candidacy. All this after an institutional coup d'etat against Dilma Rousseff. The presidential mandate in Brazil lasts 4 years, with the possibility of re-election for only one more continuous period in order to be able to run for the presidency. A period of government must pass. The swearing-in ceremony is close to beginning. Everyone is taking their seats and are preparing for the beginning of the paramount swearing-in ceremony as Lula da Silva returns to the presidency of Brazil. An important moment, no doubt, for Brazil, but also for the region, since Lula will work with other countries of the region to strengthen Latin American unity and cooperation. So just to reiterate very quickly, in just a couple of minutes the solemn session will begin. We'll be hearing the national anthem, followed by the constitutional commitment, reading and signing of the mandate of the President and Vice President of the Republic, the first address of President Lula da Silva to the nation, followed also by the speech of the President of the National Congress, and then the formal session will be closed. But the activity won't be over there. After this, they will leave to the hearing room of the Senate presidency, and then they will go to the outdoors for military honors. They will go to the grounds outside the palace for military honor ceremony. Let's listen to the words of the President of Congress.
Excelentíssimo vice-presidente da República, senhor Geraldo José Rodrigues Alckmin Filho. Eleitos em 30 de outubro de 2021
October 20th, 2022, and diplomat by the trip by the Supreme Court in December of the same year. Though they were given the diplomas that they're going to publish in the internal regiment. On the table with the presidency is Mr. President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula de Silva, Mr. Vice President of the Republic, Geraldo José Rodrigues Alquines Filho, Mr. President of the Camera of Deputies, Arthur Lira, a senhora, Mrs. President of Supreme Federal Court, Minister Rosa Beder, Mr. Procurator of the Republic, Mr. Augusto Aras, Mr. First Secretary of the Table of the National Congress, Deputy Luciano Vibar. Before to go ahead with this, solemnly, I ask an excuse to give a posthum honor to great Brazilian and king of football, Mr. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, our beloved Pelé. And also honor to the sanctity, the Pope Benedict XVI. They passed away in the last days. I propose right now, while in position of respect, to observe 1 minute of silence. Thank you very much. And right now, I invite you right now, invitated in a position of respect to sing the national anthem executed by the Naval Fusiliers. Fusiliers, Naval Band. I invite you to keep respect for the commitment, to the constitutional commitment. I invite Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Brazil, to give his constitutional commitment. I promise to defend and commit the Constitution, observe the laws, and promote the good general for all Brazilians, integrity and independence of Brazil. I invite Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President of the Republic, Mr. Geraldo José Rodrigues Filho, to swear his constitutional commitment. I promise to defend and commit the Constitution and observe the laws, promote the general good, and sustain union and integrity and independence of Brazil. With the powers that are given by the federal constitution, I declare, took up the post of President and Vice President of Brazil, Excellency President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula de Silva, Excellency Geraldo José Henrique Filho, for the period from January 1st, 2023 until January 1st, 2027. With the word, the first secretary of the table of the National Congress, Deputy Luciano Vibra, he will read the term of the post, of the possession. The terms of the post, Mr. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and Mr. Geraldo José Filho, the post of President and Vice President of the Republic. At 15 hours of the day, January 1st of 2023, by the way of the National Congress, committed here in this reunion, and all the deputies are in this city of Brasilia, the capital of the Republic of the Federal Republic of Brazil. On the table of the National Congress, took up by Mr. Pacheco, the secretary, the first secretary here right now, Deputy Luciano do Vale. On the same table, Mr. President of the Chamber of Deputies, Arthur Lira, Miss President of the Supreme Federal Court, Rosa Bella, Mr. General Procurator of the Republic, Mr. Augusto Varas, Mr. Sirs, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva e Geraldo José Alves Filho, nos termos do Article 78 of the Federal Constitution, were solemnly with your posts at the post of President and Vice President of the Republic, respectively, because they were elected in October 30 of 2022 and diplomated by the Electoral Court, the Supreme Court, Electoral Court, of the same day of the same year, for the first day of January of 2023 to 4th of January of 2027. Would you prefer, according to the Constitution, your commitment, between quotes, I promise to keep, defend, and commit the Constitution, to observe the laws, promote for the good of the Brazilian people, to keep and help integrity and independence of Brazil. Close quotes. And according to this Article 75, with the command of the National Congress, Mr. Secretary, General Secretary of the table of the Federal Senate, Mr. Força Vieira, we're talking about the next term, and for the members of the table, they have, according to all the works of this session, to be developed according to the law and the Constitution of the Brazilian Constitution. In terms of the possession will be signed by the Mr. President of the Republic and Mr. President of the Republic. For this presidency, Mr. President of the Camera of Deputies, Mr. President of the Supreme Tribunal, Supreme Court, and Supreme General of the Republic, and the Secretary of the Table of the National Congress. Mr. President, would you allow me to tell a short story? I want to tell a story. In 1989, I was in the state of Piauí. A great voting. We walked until the church, somebody, when finished this. The citizen gave me this pen, and he said, this is of the final election in 1989. I didn't won the elections of 1989. I didn't won in 94. I didn't won in 98. So in the elections, when they arrived here, I forgot my pen, and I signed with the pen of the other senator. So I signed with the pen of the Senate, and now I found the pen, and this pen for Wellington I want to honor to the state of Piauí that I'm going to sign this document.
We're watching, we're watching right in this moment the signing of the mandate of the President and Vice President of the Republic. Following this moment, the soon-to-be President Lula de Silva will address the nation for the first time. What we are seeing today is a great celebration for the arrival of Lula da Silva to the Congress for this swearing-in ceremony. You have seen images since yesterday and during the morning of thousands of people gathering to celebrate this day. Not only New Year's Eve, but also the return of Lula da Silva to the presidency. Upon arrival, President-elect and Vice President-elect Lula da Silva and Geraldo Alckmin were received at Congress by the President of the National Congress and the President of the Chamber of Deputies. Let's continue listening to the statements.
Mr. President of the National Congress, Senator Diego Pacheco, excellent President of the Chamber of Deputies, Artur Lira, Mr. President of the Federal Supreme Court, Mr. Anavedi, my Vice President Geraldo Henrique, Mr. and Mrs. Bosses, Chiefs of State and of the Government, Mr. First Secretary of the Deputies, Mr. Luciano Vivar, Mr. Procurator of the Republic, Augusto Alas, my mate, and my mate, Luzaba, and Mr. President of the Republic, and my colleague Dina Rousseff, former President of the Republic, Mr. of the Parliament, Mr. and Mrs. Chiefs of the Foreign Delegation, my friends. For the third time, I'm here to this National Congress to thanks to the Brazilian people and the vote of trust you gave me to me. The swear of fidelity according to the Constitution of the Republic, close with the President Geraldo Arcos and the minister that I know, and ministers that I know we're going to work. And thanks for the political conscience of the Brazilian society and democratic party we formed to this large, long, historic campaign. We have victorious, so overwhelming, these resources, public and private resources. More violence threatens to my problem. Of the other campaign of lies and hate to manipulate the election, the Brazilian election. Never the resource of the state well lied, because we know that the Republic on the right way and of Republicans. Never the electors were too bad and too sad by the economic power and many lies that of this industrial scale. In spite of the decision of the DUP goes on, one recognized the Supreme Court was recognized, and it was fundamental attitude, courageous of the superior electoral court and to the Supreme Court, and for the Supreme Court, yes, to prevail the truth of doubts about violences on people who were talking against me, Mr. and Mrs. When we came to this plenary of the Chamber of Deputies in this Constituent Assembly in 1988, what the discussions we talk here to talk about the Constitution with social rights, individuals and and all the people, beneficial for the population and the national sovereignty. 20 years ago, when I was elected president of the first time, close with the Vice President José Alencar, I started the word like change that was only simply and concrete the constitutional precepts to start with the right of a good life without foam, with job and health and education. I said on that occasion that my life will be committed when each Brazilian can eat 3 times per day. I want to repeat this commitment today because when the misery and foam advance that overcome the bad devastation that imposed in this country, today our message to Brazil is hope and reconstruction. Is really difficult of generating sovereignty and development that this nation rose up. Since 1988, I was systematically demolished in this next years. So this is difficult of the national values that we're going to address all our efforts. My friends, in 2022, we have the hope that in the sense of overcome the fears of the election of representatives of the working class to address the destination of the country. We know that all the frights, all the word talked about. Instead, we're not here. But what representative of the working class could be to work with the society, promote the economic growth in sustainable way and beneficial for everyone, especially for more or other than it. It is possible to govern this country, rule this country with a high social participation, including works and poor people in the decisions of the government, in the budget and decisions of the government. Right away, this electoral campaign, the hope is the hate of a suffered people, of the destruction of public policy that promote the citizenship, the rights, essential rights like health and education. I just came for a generous country that offers opportunities for their sons and the society active, strengthen that individualism. Because what we have to of the government, the transmission of this government is we clarify to take out, to look up for the budget of health and education. They destroyed the protection of environment. Didn't give resources for school, food, protection to the forest and social assistance. The governance of the economy on public salaries to support companies and workers and foreign policies. They gave the resources. They were empty. The stupidity of people that didn't allow work and private stockholders to buy public companies. It is terrible that I assume now the commitment with the Brazilian people to build a country and to make Brazil for everybody and to everybody. I want to say, deputies and senators, that the result of our transition that was condemned by Cooperado will be sent to any deputy and every senator, to every minister of the Supreme Court, to the minister of the electoral Supreme Court, of the judiciary, to each university, to every working union, so people should know how we found this country, and each one can make its assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of the sanitary disaster that we inherited, we talked to the National Congress that they proposed to support the great population that the state needs, just only to survive. I want to thank to the Chamber and the Senate by the sensibility of the Brazilian people and the attitude responsible of the Federal Supreme Court, and for this situation that is really get and destroy the harmony of the powers. I did like this. I did like this because it's not fair and correct to ask for patience for people that has foam, the hungry. So no government could be above the misery of the people, the interest of the population, and the birth of democracy, and the sovereign nationality are the main points of this government. This commitment starts by the guarantee of program for family support, more fair for people that more need, because we have to rescue the hunger of 33 million people and rescue poverty for more than 100 million of Brazilian people. They support the load of this project, the national distribution that that is not fair. So this electoral process also were created by the contrast of different jobs. Our nationality and the political participation and social participation for rule the destinies of this people, of this country. That destruction of the state and destruction of the liberty to live alone. To defend and to live with dignity, with the right of all the people who are manifestation, and of course also organization, liberty that they bring as the first now, and now they impose the law of the power. So that I call barbarian. I understood from the beginning of the day that we should be candidate for a wide front, because I have a commitment with my origins. This headquarters was consolidated, put in place to return the authoritarianism in this country. Since now, the law of information will to be committed. The portal of transparency will be to work his paper with Republicans. They will vote to be work to defend the public interest. Never take what they tried to hurt this nation. So we're going to help them. So we're going to guarantee the law, because they made many mistakes, and we're going to defend of this legal process for the stability and dignity of the Brazilian people. This period that this mandate we're going to work on, we are inspired. So we're to defend with the powers of the Constitution give to democracy. We will respond with love. The lie with truth, terror, and violence, we will respond with loss, and there is hardest consequences. So the net of democratization of the net will not defend never again. So before the terrible challenge we overcome, so we have, and I promise you, democracy forever. To conserve these words, we have to rebuild in solid basis a democracy in our country. Democracy will be defended by the people in a measure that guarantee to everybody the rights written in the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm signing to reform the executive power so I was allowed to work the government of rational way that public and democratic to rescue the work of restitution of the state, many public offices and companies to plan public investment to look for growth crescent, sustainable growth economic. We're going to give some priorities to take responsibly power lives that are more than 14,000 of the country. We're going to retake the house, the home, and my life to restructure a new park to generate works in the speed that Brazil needs. We're going to look financing and international cooperation and investment to dynamize the internal market of consumption to the market and the trading, exportation, services, and agriculture and industries. The public banks, especially BNDES, the growth and innovation of Petrobras, it will be a fundamental paper in this new cycle. At the same time, we're going to impose to help all the small companies, all that generate for taxes, tourism, and cooperativism, and creative economy. Talking about the economy is going to go around a popular market. We're going to retake valorization of the minimum salary, and we're going to finish with a long file INP as a social security. And the people, they don't attend to my people, that is worst, and they're going to take care about them and forget about long lines. We're going to dialogue in 3 ways: government, union, and working labor. A new working labor to guarantee to start with social protection challenge on these times. Ladies and gentlemen, Brazil is big too much to quit this productive potential. It doesn't make sense to import fuel, fertilizers, petroleum platforms, microprocessors, airways and satellites. We have technical capacity, capital market capital enough to retake the industrialization and offer of services in a competitive level. Brazil can secure in the first line of global economy, while to the state will be articulate the digital transition being the Brazilian industry for century, 21st century, and to stimulate the cooperation, public and private, to strengthen technology that guarantee financing with adequate costs. The future belongs to they want to invest in the knowledge of known, but with a strategy, national strategy, planned with the productive sector, center universities, and technology and innovation. All the public banks and state banks foment agents for to study. They want environmental process, so they want the creativity of the bioeconomy and all this and all this work. They're going to start. We're going to start ecologic work for agriculture and mining, sustainable, familiar agriculture, and more being in our country. Our goal is now to bring out all the forest in the Amazon region. So be careful. I'm not going to allow this slashing in the Amazon region. I would never allow that. And also stimulate and recruit about cattle grazing Brazil then not there to slash some forest, and also to the agricultural border. We don't want to bring out any tree, just replant 30 million of land that we can live without slashing, burning, or bring down trees and violence. We are going to incentivize prosperity on the land, freedom and opportunity to create and plant and harvest. These are our objectives. What we can admit is that could be a land without law. We are not tolerating violence against the smallest one, slashing and degradation of the environment that are affecting and affecting and slashing and affecting our country. The reason, not the only one, the creation of the indigenous would much better to protect our rainforest. And also we are going some time ago. So any area slashed, we don't have to do it. So these Brazilian people, we need respect to them. When we have a historic debt, we're going to protect them, and no more slashing or burning. We're going to bring out all the injustice against the indigenous people. My dear friends, a nation will not measure only from the statistics, but more impressive that could be. Like a human being, a nation expressed truly for the love of their people. Brazil is in diversity, that we have our people and our cultural manifestations. We have talking about culture with a vision to go back intensively to incentive politics, and also culture-based culture goods that we have seen, not in last year, but going to look that way to invest now, way to take care. We don't have a political, just talking about all the flowers that we harvested and all the fruit of this activity, all of them can see and can collect without censorship and discrimination. It's not that with the majority poor people oppressed by a country with African migrations. We have to political issue with the university and the way today they drop politics. We have to take care about health, education, and culture. Where this government is going to protect and create more laws for them. We can't start that women can get less salary than men, so they will not be recognized in a political group. So they will be taken apart, and they were victims of violence inside and outside of their houses. We are founding the Ministry of Women to demolish this punished centuries ago and to abolish forever and protect them. It doesn't exist really justice in a country. What other human being will be injustice? They will be to the Minister of Human Rights for each citizen will have his rights respected, access to public services and protection of preconcept, the right of public authority, citizenship, and another name of our beloved democracy. The Minister of the Justice and Public Security will be to harmonize the powers, federators, and to promote the peace or what people need, the poor people, vulnerable people, organized crime, militias, and violence. We are talking about the criminals, the access to these weapons, ammunition, that they hurt many people of this country. So it created more unsafety to this with the people. Brazil doesn't need weapons in the hands of the people. Brazil needs secure education and culture so people can be a free country. About God protection. I reassure in Brazil, who is present in every home, and church and courts. All people can practice all their religious. Ladies and gentlemen, the act that close was sublime, one more tragedy of history, pandemic of COVID in this country. Amount of fatal victims was so high that affected other population or the more prepared countries to face the sanitary emergency. Thanks to competence of our unique health system and competence of vaccination of our people. This paradox explains the criminal attitude of segregation in government. He was insensible to life with this genocide before we talk, and it doesn't have to be demanded. It hasn't to be demanded. What I have to talk about, solidarity with families, parents, brothers, sisters, and 700,000 victims of the pandemic. We are talking about more democratic constitution created by the Constitution of '88. Of course, because of it, it was also pursued and also very prejudiced with a stupidity called technical expenses. Okay, right, I just put it out. I cross it out. We're going talk about the budget of people to guarantee assistance and promote to a specialized medicine. We're going to the budget of education, invest in more universities, technical learning, universalization of access to internet, the inflation of kindergarten, and internal public health. This is the growth we truly will take to the development of this country. The more that we propose, approve on the ballots, demand yes, committed with responsibility, credibility, and credibility. With realism, that the part of fiscal monetary, controlling the inflation and respecting contract that govern this country. We can do it different. What the obligation to for the better that we did. Ladies and gentlemen, the eyes of the world were looked to Brazil in this election. The world expected was a leader and an example of social and responsible country, just such to promote not only with net but distribution of data inside of the democratic process. Our project will be concrete the integration, the South American integration from Mercosur, and will articulate about sovereignty to our region to compete with other countries. On this base, we can rebuild something active with the United States, the European community, China, and Middle East countries, and other global actors that strengthen our bonds and to break the isolation that the country was put on time ago. Brazil wants to be the owner of itself, the owner of its destiny. We are responsible for the great part of the Amazon region, and more languages, many water, petroleum, and energy, clean energy, with stability and honesty will be respected to share this greatness with humanity. Solidarity never subordinated to other ones. A relevance of the election in Brazil refer the 30s that was democratic and around the planet, and articulate authoritarian extremism that disseminate at the light and this chronological age that not submit to this not transparency project. We have urgent to create a democratic instance, democratic issue, consider of responsibilization of the means that we have of the lies that are articulated against us. So the same way that separation, wars, the climate crisis, and hunger and inequality of the project are reaffirmed for Brazil and to the world. The conviction that political of most highest senses, and in spite of these limitations, is the best way for dialogue and dialogue to construct peacefully of the process. Negative politics, and valorizada and criminalized, is the way of barbarity and tyranny. A more important mission from now on is to honor the trust received and respond the hopes of the suffering people that never lost the faith in the future, our capacity to overcome challenges. For the strength of other people and the strength of God, we will build a new country. Friends. (147).
Excelentíssimo Senhor Presidente da República.
Mr. President of the Republic of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Mr. Lula de Silva, Mr. Vice President of the Republic of the Federal Republic, Geraldo Alckmin, Mr. President of the Chamber of Deputies, our leaders, Mrs. of the Federal Supreme Court, Mr. Rosa Bever, Mr. First Secretary of the Table of the National Congress, Luciano Bivar, Mr. General Procurator of the Republic, Mr. Augusto Ares, my compliments for all of them, and to Mrs. Lula de Silva, Mrs. Alckmin, authorities present, ladies and gentlemen, chiefs of the state of the government, vice chiefs of the government, chiefs of the prominent ministers, foreign minister, representative of international organism, and ambassadors. My compliments to Mr. José Sarney, former president of Federal Republic, former president of Brazil, Mrs. Dilma Rousseff, Mr. and Mrs. Senators, federal deputies, Mr. the State, Ministers of State, Mr. President of the Superior Federal Court, Mr. Alexandre Moraes, Mr. President, Mrs. of Superior Justice Court, Mr. Maria Assis Moura, Mr. President of the Superior General of Work, Mr. Andres Mr. Governors of the state authorities, invited present. First, in January 1st, 2033, exactly 20 years in this same plenary, was dada the possession of Mr. Lula de Silva as 35 President of the Republic of the Federal Republic of Brazil. Today, with attention of looking at all the Brazilians, they again they look to this National Congress to accompany this Congress to Mr. Lula de Silva as 39 President of the President of the Republic of Brazil, and José Alckmin, Vice President. There's a feeling of renewed trust. We are in front of two public men, experienced and he come back to this palace of Planalto with 8 years of mandate, where we're highlighted by social inclusion, economic growth, and respect to the institutions. And now he came back close to Geraldo Alckmin, ex-former governor of the state of São Paulo, ancient adversary, ancient contender of election of 2016. This is the interest of the country is further off, further of party interest. The beginning of this new government is a moment of renovation, of hope, the hope of the more inclusive country, safety, secure, and just, like a new begin. They feel all the expectations that was we had another chance to make more, to make better. But in elections of 2022, Brazilian democracy was tested and became victorious. It's the most important election in our history after democratization. The time will say institution will be guaranteed the people of the will of the people that said about thousands of votes in the electoral process. It was a major scroll demand for the seal, victorious seal. Now recognizing this National Congress, justice all of this country, in the name of Mr. Alexander de Moraes, President of the Electoral at the Supreme Court, Mr. Lula, Mr. Vice President Alckmin, Brazil chose as authorities, maximum authorities of the executive power to drive our country more than 200 million people. The new government come with complete challenges how to unify polarized Brazil to guarantee social commitments and condemn responsibility, fiscal responsibility. So the people in common sounds imperative and urgent. Reconcile Brazilians that were deep, go down on the people and build with the generosity and not discourage all people that want to bring down this president, but strengthen of journal press and restore democracy. Brazil are talking about structural reform. We have to be concrete. Now, just part-time. There are more Brazilians. They need much more about that. Public agents, they have hungry, they live misery, and they suffer with inequality. Today, without the powers of the Republic, we need to work together to find all the ways that guarantee equality, solidarity, and dignity to our people. To each one of Brazilians that are living here without any discrimination and without privilege. The Brazilian conjuncture is deeply marked by the sanitary crisis by COVID. The pandemic left marked economic marks of lives that gone away. They passed away. Many lives gone away. I can say about this to honor the victims of pandemic and their relatives without making register to professionals of the health region of Brazil. They show the instance of solidarity of Brazilians to all professionals of health. I want to thank you very much. And after the pandemic, the economic crisis was a reality in all countries of the world. Here we start to live with any ancient enemy, inflation and high interest. Many companies were closed, and Brazilians didn't buy too much because they didn't have money. So the government need to find the balance point between the fiscal public policy, monetary, and social, so Brazil can go away and start creating jobs and dignity. And this National Congress will be to offer everything to legislative to advance of the agenda, of the development agenda. The last years were also hurt by alert by climatic change, climatic and environmental change. We have alterations of the region about too much rain, and also slashing and burn of our rainforest. This problem could be negated, but the country should be assumed and faced for recover the measure of Brazil in front of the world to reinforce national rainforest with sustainable practice. It's a great opportunity, and go into green economy. It has many natural resources and richness that put us in position, advantage position of clean energy, of everything green area. With planning and good practices, we can make a world reference in sustainable development and environmental presentation. We need, Mr. President Lula, the strong investment in infrastructure, more vision in memory, in memory, so we can live without social inequality. They develop industrialization to promote national integration and education. This is true at that time, but stay in like reality today. Brazil, to be competitive, need to invest in energy, healthy, transport, logistics, housing, telecommunications. Brazil is a giant that needs to be integrated, but when we're not advancing all the structure, we don't arrive to the people more land people and all people that need more in this giant country. It's an interiorized country, the great center and a country that needs assistance, need attendance, and want to grow from inside to external. We need to invest and to grow in the interior, and we have to invest in the country to take out to the rest of the world. Our people that demand resources. This is a challenge that we could to people, President Lula and Vice President Geraldo Alckmin. It's need to advance in tributary reform, but we don't have a system of bureaucratic tax, and we need to reform that. So close with elaboration of new fiscal rule. It's something that National Congress is going to work with you, Mister. So we need to the future and to look more take care with education. The not horizon, next horizon. If we don't have effective investment in education, Brazil need the training of young people, guarantee educational guarantee of their boys and girls. We need the commitment, Mr. Lula and Vice President Alckmin. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can lack of the generation from 0 until 18 years old in Brazil. Our children, they need teaching, breakfast, lunch, arts, culture, medical attendance, psychological, the psychiatric attendance, and social attendance. To be theory, Brazilian education has to involve diversity, respect, ethics. We need to make citizens, and the result, the culture of our country, rich in diversity, and world arts also, world academy, the world's academy, the world's Brazilian academy. There's a country without culture is a country without education. The post that I live, I'm going to short register about the Parliament, Brazilian Parliament. I have the last years that I preside the we have the Brazilian Congress. We're looking to propose to approve legislative interest of public interest. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, we have Excellency will file a progressive parliament reformist that defend women, that fight racism, that shows preoccupation with environment causes, that also about the change, healthy roads, and also to be honest, also we have to get the maximum of its potential with the legal part of juridic train, because we have the legislative power. We want to ensure that the spirit of all the Brazilian parliamentarians are of cooperation, all truth of this cooperation during the passage of the new government. We're talking about transition government to approve the transition part is about the amendment of this constitution, and many approve the proposal. They ask for reduction. Now this month of January, we're going to write benefit families that will be called some family bag in the justice, social justice and inequality of opportunities. We're going to work on it very hard, and also to defend the civil rights, especially of rights of equality that we offer, Mr. President. We have to believe of the people, and we're going to three meals of the day to have education and culture for these people, and equality, liberty for their spirits. The Congress is for the excellency. Also, the university can look for convergence, because it's right. It's common sense of the government that today is going, begins, and also it's Martin Luther King. We have to take those bodies, those minds, the spirits of all Brazilians. The project is used, but we have a rich country, and able to great jobs. What the three powers of the Republic are here committing this country in harmony and balance. I want to finish our commitment with democracy and their institutions. Part of this commitment, it is about adhesion, is to work with cooperation and balance with the powers, cooperation, equality, with equality, respect, moderation. All these are the pillars to be effectiveness, this ability, and also what the Brazilian society is waiting for us facing these Brazilian problems. Now, today is about peace. Let's live in the past, what separates us, everything that divides us. Let's look for the future as a new opportunity and a new beginning. Let's make a new beginning. Let's make better the future we are designing, the present today to review and redesign the future. Don't waste this opportunity. We guarantee the union of our people, so we can rescue our nation of this good territory that most of the world, country of football, of the happiness, country blessed by their nature. We are the country Ayrton Senna and Pelé, the best names of sportsmen of 20th century. They went through the world giving message of peace and future to our children. Our future, Mr. President Lula, your election is represent to one of the public policies that talk about population, especially for other people that are not in favor and distinguish these last passages of the President of the Republic. I'm sure that fight against all the things along your life, you can face all the problems of our population come to end. President Lula, I said here, one of the political leaders of this country, Ulysses Guimarães, in one of his speech, he told us the mortal enemy of the man is misery. More miserable than miserables in society than not finished with misery. Thank you, the presence of the authorities, nationals, and with the purpose of national union. Thanks very much to authorities, international authorities, that they came here. They honor us with this moment, and I thank you very much to this bicentennial of independence of Brazil, Your Excellency Marcelo Ribeiro de Souza, our country mother, Portugal, that he is here without his presence. I wish to everybody in 2023, 2023 full of peace, realizations, and prosperity. I declare on the table of God, we close this solemnly session. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, invited people, we ask you to stay in your places until the people can leave at the table and foreign authorities of this plenary.
And like this, the ceremony, this part of the solemn ceremony has concluded. It is official now. President Luiz Inácio Lula de Silva has been sworn in as the President of Brazil alongside with his VP, Geraldo Alckmin. It has been clear what they have said in the speeches. There is one clear message: work and work together for the future of Brazil. Now, keeping up with the schedule, once the heads of states and government and everyone present will begin to leave to the hearings hall of the Congress, and from there they will exit to the outskirts of the palace, where there will be a ceremony held of military honors for the newly sworn-in president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and his VP, as a way to honor the military, to honor and show their loyalty to the newly sworn-in government. We're watching live images of Lula da Silva's inauguration as President of Brazil, as well as President Lula's first address to the nation as President. President Lula thanked the people of Brazil for believing and making it possible for truth to prevail. President Lula said his government will include all sectors of Brazilian society, giving voice to the most vulnerable in the path forward for the country. The head of state added that they will work for the reinstitution of different sectors for the benefit of the people and will help small companies to prosper. Lula added that they will strive to protect the Brazilian people from violence, in gender violence, violence against minorities, and the most vulnerable, to make Brazil a diverse and a country of love. Follow us on our social medias for more information. Also, more details on this paramount ceremony and many other topics in upcoming news briefs. Stay tuned.